News First, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And top of the morning to you. This is Newsline live, as always, from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. Cross Services Agreement, State of Forces Agreement. What are all these agreements that are suddenly making the news? And why is there an apparent indecent hurry to sign them into action? Well, let's find out. We have in the studio this morning a public interest activist. I think that's the best way to describe Mr. Rusiripala Tennakoon, former banker and so on, and a trade unionist, but very much on the last 5 years or so, a public interest activist with a passion of sorts. Good morning to you, Mr. Rusiripala, and thank you for coming on the program.
Good morning, Faraz. Happy to be here.
Thank you. What is this Access and Cross Services Agreement? State of Forces Agreement. What are all these things?
Yeah. These are some of the very strange things happening behind the scene in this country without much being known by the public, nor by the parliamentarians.
Right.
Despite the fact that they are making queries to make them public or make the information available to them for them to know what exactly is going on. So I like to start the program by saying that there are many things happening, more things unseen behind the scene than what we see.
So there is a story going on behind the scenes.
Exactly.
What is that? And then in between there is all sorts of things. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? Tell us about it. What's happening?
Exactly. The ACSA, or the Access and Cross Services Agreement that you referred to at the beginning, is a thing that has been there in the country between the United States of America and Sri Lanka government.
It's an agreement.
It's an agreement. It has been there from the time of Ms. Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga when she was the president. And the agreement was renewed in 2007 by Gotabaya Rajapaksa as the Defense Secretary. And it was renewed again in 2017 when Mr. Karunasena Hettiarachchi was the Defense Secretary in 2017. But the controversy regarding this ACSA is not that because they have entered into or renewed that agreement. The controversy is a 9-page document that paved the way for a simple operation of an understanding between the two countries, that is United States and the Sri Lankan government, for offering services and obtaining services and giving supplies and making
it was a form of a ship chandling agreement.
Mostly something like, you have heard these R&R agreements that were prevailing?
Yes,
rest and recreation.
Yes. So
I mean, something like that.
Yeah. So they call it here.
Yeah, little beyond, because R&R don't provide for military craft.
Right.
But in this case, this is to specifically provide for military-based aircraft or military-based ships to provide services. So, I mean, they are very clear and very specific about the use of the ports, the use of the airports for the military craft on an understood pre-arranged basis. So this was the former agreements that were entered into were of a formal nature, which are available everywhere else also with many other countries.
Yeah.
And they ran into 9 pages for us.
Okay.
But what is now strongly objected to is, or I mean people are shouting about, is that the 2017 ACSA has 80 pages. With so many annexures and
9 pages from Chandrika's time, 9 pages in
Gotabaya's time.
Gotabaya as Defense Secretary's time has now manifested itself to an 80-page document.
Yeah, and associated with that are 2 factors. This was hurriedly signed in 2017, and what is coming to light today in the today's context is that somebody has sort of made the then Defense Secretary to rush into it, to sign it without holding on.
This is Karunasena Hettiarachchi.
Karunasena Hettiarachchi being pushed to do that by Prasad Karyavasam, who was Foreign Secretary at that time.
Now, I want to stop you there. It's astonishing that there are these claims, and confirmed by Mr. Hettiarachchi himself, that there was pressure being put on him to sign this ahead of various reports from the service commanders. So then my question is, should we be appointing people who are being swayed by pressure?
Well, Faraz, I really do wish, if I don't want to comment on that, but then the circumstances compel us to make a comment. I mean, you look at all these people.
No, comment is comment. Friendship and association is different.
Look at the show that is going on in the parliament today.
Oh, the reality show.
The reality show that is going on. From what is transpired there, the events unfolded, we see what a set of, I don't say jokers, a set of people who have been associated with the highly important, vulnerable position, strategically important to this country. It's very unfortunate. I don't know, the accusation goes to the people who selected them as well. But then the fact is that they have been there, and they are there. This is the pathetic situation in this country. So coming back to this ACSA, coming back to the ACSA, so the ACSA has been signed. For me, the most controversial thing that I see in the ACSA is there appears to be a conditionality attached to the ACSA of a previous agreement to enter into another agreement called the SOFA agreement subsequently. And it is made part of the annexures or conditions in the ACSA. I'm not sure whether it is there, but from all what is transpiring and appearing now, it is clear, it is apparent that there has been some understanding of that nature at the time of signing the ACSA, that sooner than later, the ACSA will be replaced with a SOFA.
I see.
That is the Status of Forces agreement, which is more open to military forces from the US to occupy in the country.
For their forces to be present in Sri Lanka?
Yes, physically, not only be present.
Who are passing through, or of a temporary nature, or of a more permanent nature?
It doesn't say so for us. The idea of the agreement is, whenever and if the military forces of the United States do come into Sri Lanka, they can travel about freely in their uniforms, with their ammunition, and with an afforded immunity to them in the lines of a diplomatic immunity that is given to the diplomatic services, so that the laws that are applicable for any violations done by them, human rights or otherwise, will be dealt with under the jurisdictions of the United States and not by the Sri Lankan government.
I see.
I mean, it goes that far. So they're strange.
So there's no need for our laws to apply to them.
Faraz, it is, I think, the foreign minister who is currently overseas, I think he has been negotiating on this count, and then the news that we get is that there have been instances that he has pointed this out, and then he has raised this as an issue of concern of the Sri Lanka government, or that of the president and that of the prime minister, whether the jurisdiction relevant to the military personnel in Sri Lanka, US military personnel, should be left to the United States, or whether we should have a right over it. The danger is, Faraz, one more thing I like to tell you, the applicability of the jurisdiction doesn't go only up to the military personnel. Any person engaged by the military personnel under that agreement, contractors, or even local persons employed by them for their purposes, will be brought in under the jurisdiction of the United States. This is a very strange state of affairs.
I'm absolutely shocked.
I mean,
it's shocking. And what is in between the US Secretary of State Mr. Pompeo is due to visit Sri Lanka this month. All of a sudden, why is Sri Lanka becoming so important?
For us, this is, I don't know whether
I mean, we've always been important strategically, but
there have been many other strategically important events that have been taking place in Sri Lanka in the recent past. I think if I'm to go back to a little to the prevailing situation in the context of the terrorist attack of the 21st, I would like to just go through the preceding period shortly and the period afterwards. You know, there are so many strategically important events that are taking place globally in the region as well as in the country in relation to this 21st thing. Now, you take January. In December 2018, the 7th Fleet of the United States was in the waters of Sri Lanka or Asian Pacific region. They came for their exercises. And they brought that ship, the aircraft carrier, John Stetson, which is now berthed off Trincomalee. And it remains ever since there.
It's still there?
It's still there, to be there, said to be there. It's an aircraft carrier with the capacity of carrying 100 military aircraft and keeping about 3,000 soldiers aboard, military personnel. So that's a big, huge vessel, and it is berthed now. Now this vessel came in December after the exercises, it was left. And there's a very important thing that we should focus our attention to. The time that this exercise was done, the US Embassy in Sri Lanka, in one of their news releases, said that Sri Lanka is considered as an important hub for commercial activities in the future to be developed with the assistance of the United States. And this was the statement that was made. Commercial activities. Now, on the 24th of January 2019, the 7th Fleet came to Sri Lanka again. And this time, more specifically, they had some involvements going beyond doing exercises in the region. They came to the Colombo Harbour, they came to the BIA airport and unloaded certain unidentified material up to date. And then the military planes from aircraft from the ship, John Stetson, that is berthed in Trincomalee, flew into the BIA airport, which is a commercial airport, the military aircraft. They landed, loaded and ferried the stuff into the ship in Trincomalee. Now, nobody knew what this exercise was. The government was tight-lipped about it.
Forgive me, Mr. Rusiripala, but if it was a commercial transaction, commercial aspect to this thing, then by necessity, the customs, the Sri Lanka customs should know about it. The Sri Lankan authorities must know about it if it is indeed a commercial transaction. Otherwise, everybody will be importing anything and nobody will know anything, and there'll be more 21 Aprils happening.
Very relevant issue that you raised up. You see, the entire thing sort of emanates or is surrounded by this very concern, this very important concern. Now, you see, there's another strange thing that happened during this same period. The United States of America Embassy released a second release, which said, over and above the first statement that they made, announcing that Sri Lanka is to be made a commercial hub, this time they say that the United States is making arrangements to make the Sri Lanka a military hub. Now, this is after the 24th operation. So, when this matter was raised by the first instance with the CAA, that's the Civil Aviation Authority of Sri Lanka, which has the jurisdiction over aircraft flying and things like that. The CEO very clearly stated and said, we have nothing to do. It appears that they have got the approval of the Defense Ministry.
Making it a defense matter, not a
commercial matter. Now, when subsequently after when the 24th January operation was going on, the then Defense Secretary, the chap who resigned recently, when he was asked by some journalist, what is this operation going on? you know, strangely, this man said, no, it's a commercial operation. We have nothing to do with that. The Ministry of Defense or the Ministry of Finance, Foreign Affairs has nothing to do with this. You can see how either dissuaded or deceptive or misleading they have been.
Why?
In the affairs that concerns highly strategically security important factors.
Why are they downplaying this? Is it because of a lack of knowledge, or is it to do with for financial gain, or is it to have some other form of benefit for themselves and their friends and their family? You know, it's a complete departure of what in Britain we'd call the Nolan principles.
For us, you are treading on an area which is making it difficult for us to make a pronouncement or make a statement. But I would like to say one thing that will convey the entire clear picture.
Yeah.
The United States Embassy, in a subsequent release, said that this loading and unloading operation brought in an income of 25 million rupees to the economy of this country.
25 million rupees.
Yes, Faraz. Now, your question,
Yeah.
whether people are benefited by this type of thing in a different way, goes unanswered, but it is clear that, you know, there is a possibility of they being looked after. And the government getting only 25 million rupees for a huge, massive operation of this nature, involving the states of the forces of the most important leading country in the world, leading economy of the world, leading power of the world, superpower. They're giving us 25 million rupees for their operation. I mean, even if we unload some 1 or 2 cartons or 1 or 2 containers, container loads or something, we would have paid as taxes much more than that. Your question about taxes, your question about the customs coming in, your question about the security personnel being involved to examine what has been included in those transactions or in those transfers goes unanswered today.
So, Mr. Rusiripala, technically, they can bring in stuff, put it in their in containers or anything like they want, and make a beeline to Trinco or wherever they want to.
Yeah.
And along the way, they could be happily distributing weapons or anything like that. I mean, I'm just giving you perhaps an extreme scenario. And in a time and in an age when we find that since the 21st of April, a huge stash of various sort of weapons that have been hidden from the law in this country.
Yes, you are right in making that presumption because the operation on 24th appears to be following the agreement, ACSA agreement that was signed in 2017, which had so many annexures and addendums in addition to the normal 9 pages it contained long before.
So it made a total of 80 pages.
80 pages. So it may be that in those 80 pages there has been provision, laid down provision for them to operate these such things, to bring in, to take
Well,
out.
clearly, if they didn't have that approval, they wouldn't have engaged in it.
Yeah, but you and I are on conjectures only. The country has to know it.
Where is this 80-page agreement? Is it available on the net for
No, it is not.
Joe Bandara and so on to read?
It is not. When
So there is no transparency.
when Kiriella was questioned,
Yeah,
or when somebody was questioned and Kiriella answered it in Parliament,
yeah.
he merely said that it is the same agreement that was renewed, that was there, which was renewed subsequently, which is totally untrue.
This Kirialla chappie is annoying in the extreme because he's doing it all over again. He's being extremely economical with the truth.
No, he's playing an important role in
Protecting who?
in the activities of the government of Ranil Wickremesinghe to protect and to pronounce what he wants in the way that he wants it. So he has done it very careful, very calculatedly he has done it, and he has said, well, this is the same agreement.
So now this agreement we don't have a sight of, but everything else that's going on in the security world is being published for all to hear and see.
This is why I said at the beginning, for us, there are so many things happening behind the scene than what we see, but what we hear. More we hear than we see. So this is the situation in the country. Very unfortunate. This has been going on, and not that. If you see this, there are one or two other events.
Yeah.
You know, now the fear is that the government is trying to enter into a more specific agreement with the United States to permit the occupation or entry of military personnel into the country, and for them to go to any part of the country in their military attire with weapons and with an immunity afforded to them. While that is pending, on 21st of March, a team from United States arrives here, said to be from the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Now this is another subject that has been discussed by so many people, partly referred to, without really addressing the dangers involved in that operation. Now, they come here to see how Sri Lanka is progressing under the understandings reached with the MCC before, with regard to the economic reform packages that they have recommended for this country by them, to be considered for future grants to expedite them. So they came to see that. And then happens the 21st debacle, you know, the 21st April attack, you know, the terrorist attack, the sad state of affairs, the intervention of His Eminence, the Cardinal, to quieten the situation, to prevent backlash, which is very, very respectfully remembered by the citizens of this country, happens. And on the 25th of April, this MCC, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, approves a grant of $480 million to Sri Lanka, a 5-year grant for our economic development activities, which is acknowledged by our Minister of Finance, Samravira, by saying that we have a blessing in the form of a financial grant following this debacle of the 21st. This is history, no?
It's history.
Yes. So he said this. He acknowledged it with great warmth and said, we are getting $480 million from the MCC. The agreement is not signed for us yet. The agreement behind the compact, the MCC compact, is yet to be discussed, agreed and arranged. It is being discussed at the moment. I want to tell one thing.
Yes.
There are so many development activities and development initiatives that are involved in the Millennium Challenge Corporation activities. One is the land in this country, the entire landscape of this country have been subject to a survey by the American government under the Millennium Challenge Corporation auspices. And it is said, reported, that the entire landscape of the country have been already mapped and planned out.
Why do they want it?
This God only knows. I mean, we are yet to understand it. But from what is appearing in piecemeal form, it comes little by little for us to see or assume and presume what is behind it. That's why I say so many things are happening behind the scene.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scene. Now, the Land Bank Act, which is proposed and which is in the offing, which is strongly advocated by the Ranil Wickremesinghe government, is a piece of legislature which identifies the land that is belonging to the state in this country You know, 80% of the landscape of this country is owned by the government. 80%. That includes the lands that have been used by the forces for their bases, our forces, the schools, hospitals, government departments, and all public institutions. Now, the proposal, as we are given to understand, is to bring all these state-owned lands under a public authority, which is even not answerable to the cabinet, to decide as to how they should deal with this government land to make it productive. To make the land productive, to make the land more tradable, to make the land available to the market forces to develop it.
And we need the Americans to do all this.
I know, I mean, this is...
so where is all these educated, literate Sri Lankans then?
And following that is another act that is coming, that is called the Land Grants Special Provisions Act, which is amended to give the land that is now under lease and short-term provisions to the farmers and smallholders is to be given outright to them so that they get the freedom to sell them. You know, our farmers, if they do one cultivation, one kanne this time, for the next kanne they are indebted. They'll have to borrow. That is their life. That is the reality. Instead of addressing the issues concerning our farmers and the poor people in the country, they are now making them landowners of a small piece of land, which they will sooner than later get rid of for a few rupees to some source that is offering them something more than what a local person can offer. You can see where our land policy is leading us to. And in the rush, it is also conjectured, believed, that the 50-acre rule, maximum land occupation or ownership, is to be removed. And also to be substituted by another rule that foreigners can own land in this country. Now, the Millennium Challenge Corporation is very much behind the affairs of this country to bring in a thinking in the lines of the neoliberal thinking to pave the way for the marketing forces to take full control of this country's economy.
Mr. Rusiripala Tennakoon, it's been amazing listening to all of this. It's deeply worrying, and honestly, we need to have a full-blown discussion on this matter, because it is of the gravest of importance. And I do hope that you will find the time, create the time even, to participate in further programs that will highlight this worrying scenario behind the scenes, whilst all sorts of other things are happening.
I'll be most pleased to do that, Faraz, in the interest of the country, in the national interest, in the prevention of the national sovereignty of this country for the future generations.
Rusiripala Tennakoon, once again, on behalf of Newsfirst, thank you very much for all your splendid efforts. That's the way it was on Newsline this morning. Do take care and have a great day. God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.